The massive chamber of the Galactic Council was filled with tension. Thousands of alien representatives sat in their designated sections, their eyes focused on the central platform where three powerful Empire leaders stood. The air hummed with translated voices and the soft glow of holographic displays. Ambassador Chen Wei walked slowly to the human section. He was a tall man with gray hair and calm eyes. Behind him sat only 12 other humans representing Earth and its colonies. Compared to the hundreds of delegates from other species, humanity looked very small and weak. Admiral Kessitar of the Zephyrian Empire rose first. His crystalline body caught the light and threw rainbow patterns across the walls. When he spoke, his voice sounded like breaking glass. "The matter before us today is simple," Kessitar announced. "The human species has expanded into the Tau Cygni system without permission. This system belongs to the contested zones, and 3 great empires have claims there." Murmurs filled the chamber. Several alien species turned to stare at the human section, with what looked like amusement. Humans had only joined the galactic community 200 years ago. Most species considered them children playing with toys they did not understand. Queen Vexith of the Korthak swarm spoke next. Her voice came from thousands of smaller creatures that made up her body, creating an eerie harmony. "The swarm has monitored human expansion for decades. Their technology is primitive. Their ships are slow. They pose no real threat to established powers." The third speaker was Elder Morden of the Veiltar hegemony. His ancient face showed deep wrinkles and his eyes glowed with a soft blue light. The Veiltar were the oldest known species in the galaxy, with records going back 10,000 years. "Young species often make mistakes," Mordun said slowly. "They reach too far, too fast. They forget their place in the natural order. This is what humans have done." Chen Wei stood up. The chamber fell quiet. Even though humans were considered weak, protocol demanded they be heard. "Honored representatives," Chen began, his voice clear and steady. "Earth acknowledges the concerns raised today. We understand that our expansion has caused worry among the established powers." "Worry?" Admiral Kessitar's voice grew sharper. "Your species has 800 ships. The Zephyrian Empire alone commands 15,000 vessels. The swarm controls 20,000. The hegemony has maintained 30,000 ships for millennia. You speak of expansion as if you have the strength to back your words." Chen nodded calmly. "Numbers are important, Admiral, but they are not everything." Queen Vexith's swarm body rippled with what might have been laughter. "Human arrogance is amusing. Your largest ship is barely 1 kilometer long. Our dreadnoughts stretch for 10 kilometers. Your weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Your engines are centuries behind our technology." "The swarm speaks truth," Elder Morden added. "When my people first sailed between stars, your species was still learning to make fire. We have watched civilizations rise and fall. We know strength when we see it, and we know weakness." The chamber filled with clicking, buzzing, and chirping sounds as various alien species expressed their agreement. Chen Wei remained standing, waiting for the noise to die down. Admiral Kessitar raised one crystalline hand for silence. "The Council has reached a decision. Humanity will withdraw all ships and claims from the Tau Cygni system within 72 hours. If humans refuse, the 3 empires will send a combined fleet to remove them by force." "How large would this fleet be?" Chen asked. 50,000 ships, Queen Vexith answered, her swarm voice carrying satisfaction. "More than enough to deal with your entire military force." The number caused gasps from smaller species throughout the chamber. 50,000 ships was enough to destroy most civilizations completely. It was a show of overwhelming force designed to terrify humanity into submission. Chen Wei was quiet for a long moment. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of various alien representatives. Some looked excited about the coming battle. Others seemed sorry for humanity's fate. 72 hours, Chen repeated slowly. "That is enough time." "Enough time for what?" Admiral Kessitar asked. "To pack your belongings and flee? Your species should have thought about consequences before challenging powers beyond your understanding." "Enough time to consult with Earth's leadership," Chen replied, "to make sure everyone understands what comes next." Elder Morden leaned forward in his seat. "Young Ambassador, there is no shame in retreat. Your species is new to the galaxy. Learn from this mistake. Grow stronger over the centuries. Perhaps in 1,000 years you will be ready to expand beyond your current borders." "The hegemony offers wisdom," Chen said with a slight bow. "We will consider all options carefully." The formal session was ending. Representatives began to file out of the chamber, many already discussing the coming conflict. Most seemed certain it would be over quickly, with humanity either surrendering or being destroyed. As Chen Wei gathered his documents, Admiral Kessitar approached the human section. Up close, his crystalline form was even more impressive. Light seemed to flow through his body like liquid fire. "Ambassador," Kessitar said quietly, "I wanted to speak with you privately." Chen nodded and dismissed his staff. Soon only he and the Zephyrian admiral remained in that part of the chamber. "I have studied your species," Kessitar continued. "Humans show promise. Your people learn quickly and adapt well. It would be unfortunate if this conflict ended in your extinction." "Thank you for the concern, Admiral. I am offering you a chance," Kessitar said, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. The Zephyrian Empire could speak for humanity in this matter. "We could arrange a peaceful withdrawal. Your people would live. Your colonies would remain safe. All you need to do is accept our protection." Chen Wei smiled for the first time during the session. It was not a happy smile. "Protection," he repeated. "In exchange for what?" "Loyalty, service. Your species would become part of the Zephyrian Empire. A small part, but a living part. It is better than the alternative." Chen was quiet for several seconds. Then he looked directly into Kessitar's glowing eyes. "Admiral, you seem like an honorable being. You clearly care about avoiding unnecessary death. I respect that. Then you will consider my offer?" "I have a question first," Chen said. "Your empire is thousands of years old. You have conquered dozens of species. You have technology that seems like magic to younger civilizations. You have every reason to be confident. This is true. So why are you trying to save us? If humans are so weak and primitive, why does our extinction worry you?" Admiral Kessitar was silent for a long moment. His crystalline form seemed to dim slightly. "Because," he said finally, "in all my years of war and conquest, I have learned to recognize something in my enemies. I can tell the difference between confidence and fear, between strength and desperation, between truth and lies. And what do you see in me?" "That is what concerns me," Kessitar admitted. "I see none of those things. I see calm, certainty. As if you know something the rest of us do not." Chen Wei picked up his documents and prepared to leave. At the chamber's exit, he turned back to face the Admiral. "You are very wise, Admiral Kessitar. You should trust your instincts." "What does that mean?" Chen's smile returned, and this time it was almost sad. "It means you assume we have shown you everything we have. That assumption may be incorrect." With those words, Ambassador Chen Wei left the chamber, leaving Admiral Kessitar alone with a growing sense of unease that he could not explain. The elevator descended deep into the Swiss Alps, far below any known facility. Chen Wei stood silently as the numbers on the display climbed higher, showing depths that should not exist. The elevator had been falling for 10 minutes, passing levels that most humans never knew existed. Finally, the doors opened to reveal a massive underground complex. The walls were made of metal that seemed to absorb light, and the air hummed with energy from unknown sources. Chen Wei walked through corridors that stretched beyond sight, passing rooms filled with technology that looked nothing like standard human equipment. The United Terran Defense Council chamber was a circular room with 12 seats arranged around a central platform. As Chen entered, 11 other figures were already waiting. These were not the politicians or military leaders that the galaxy knew about. These people carried themselves differently, with the weight of secrets that spanned centuries. Director Sarah Martinez stood at the center. She was a small woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that seemed much older than her face. When she spoke, her voice carried absolute authority. "Report," she said simply. Chen Wei activated a holographic display showing the Galactic Council session. The other council members watched in silence as he replayed the key moments, including his final conversation with Admiral Kessitar. 50,000 ships, said General Morrison, a man whose family had held positions in this council for generations. They are committing everything. The Zephyrians, Korthak and Veiltar, have never worked together before, added Dr. Elena Vasquez, the council's chief scientist. This alliance only exists because they see us as a threat worth uniting against. Are we? Asked Chen Wei. A threat, I mean. Director Martinez was quiet for a moment. Then she pressed a series of controls on the central platform. The room's walls became transparent, showing the true scope of the facility around them. Massive construction bays stretched in all directions. Strange ships in various stages of completion hung suspended in the air, held by fields of energy that bent light around them. Protocol Lazarus, Martinez announced. All in favor? 11 hands rose without hesitation. Chen Wei raised his hand as well, though he felt the weight of what they were about to unleash. Unanimous, Martinez said. Authorization code, Guardian 77 Alpha. Begin immediate activation. Across the Earth, systems that had waited in silence for thousands of years began to wake up. In Egypt, the Great Pyramid started to vibrate. The massive stone blocks that tourists photographed every day began to shift, revealing metal surfaces underneath. Ancient hieroglyphs glowed with soft blue light as hidden machinery came online. On Easter Island, the famous stone heads turned slowly on their bases. Beneath them, the ground cracked open to show construction facilities that had been hidden since before recorded history. The heads were not statues at all, but control towers for shipyards buried deep in the ocean floor. In England, Stonehenge's massive stones began to move. They rose into the air, supported by invisible forces, as the ground beneath them opened like a flower. From the depths came ships that dwarfed anything in human records. Their hulls were dark metal that seemed to drink starlight, covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. Similar scenes played out around the world. Uluru in Australia revealed itself to be a massive communications array. The Nazca lines in Peru lit up as landing strips for vessels that had never been designed for atmospheric flight. Underwater, the lost city of Atlantis was not lost at all, but had been waiting beneath the waves as humanity's largest shipyard. In the Alps facility, Martinez watched status reports flood in from around the globe. Each ancient site was reporting successful activation. Ships that had been under construction for centuries were finally being completed. How long? She asked. Dr. Vasquez consulted her displays. The first wave will be ready in 36 hours. Full deployment in 60 hours. The aliens gave us 72 hours, Chen Wei said. They do not know how generous they were being. General Morrison pulled up fleet displays. The numbers were staggering. Earth was not just hiding a few secret ships. They were hiding an entire civilization's worth of military power. Ma'am, said a technician from one of the monitoring stations, we are getting gravitational anomalies throughout the solar system. Jupiter's moons are showing massive energy signatures. The asteroid belt is moving. Martinez nodded. Phase 2 sites coming online. Good. Phase 2? Chen Wei asked. The ships hidden on Earth are just the beginning, Martinez explained. We have been building in space for much longer than we have been building on the surface. Ceres, Europa, Titan, they are not natural bodies anymore. We hollowed them out centuries ago and turned them into construction facilities. The main display showed the solar system from above. Red dots began appearing throughout the system as hidden bases revealed themselves. What had looked like asteroids were actually camouflaged shipyards. What had seemed like empty space contained massive vessels that had been waiting in perfect stillness. How is this possible? Chen Wei asked. The technology alone. We should not be able to build ships like this. Dr. Vasquez activated another display. This one showed writing that definitely was not human. The symbols seemed to move and shift even as they watched, making the eyes water and the mind struggle to understand. 12,000 years ago we made contact, she explained, not with the species the galaxy knows about, with something older, something that had been waiting for the right people to find them. The architects, General Morrison added, they were not physical beings anymore. They had moved beyond the need for bodies, for ships, for planets, but they left behind warnings. Warnings about what? Martinez took over the explanation. Something is coming. Something that devours entire galaxies. The architects called it the Silence. They had fought it before in other galaxies and lost, but they learned from their defeat. They gave us the tools and knowledge to build this fleet, Dr. Vasquez continued, but they also gave us a mission. We were to remain hidden until the galaxy was united enough to fight what was coming. The alien empires threatening us, Chen Wei realized. They are not our enemies. They are our responsibility, Martinez confirmed. Every species in this galaxy, every world, every life. The architects chose humanity not because we were the strongest or the smartest, but because we could think in the long term. We could sacrifice for future generations. The displays around them showed the progress of activation. Ships larger than cities were emerging from hidden bays. Energy readings showed power sources that used technologies the galaxy had never seen. Some of the vessels had been under construction for so long that their outer hulls showed the work of hundreds of generations of human builders. The secrecy, Chen Wei said slowly. The colonies that seemed so primitive. The technology that looked centuries behind everyone else. All carefully maintained, General Morrison confirmed. The humans the galaxy knows about are real, but they are only our outer settlements. Earth has been transformed into something else entirely. A fortress. A factory. A guardian, and now? Director Martinez looked at the displays showing alien fleets gathering at the edge of human space. 50,000 ships, enough to destroy any normal civilization. But humanity was not normal and never had been. Now we reveal ourselves, she said, not because we want to, but because we must. The silence has been detected at the galaxy's edge. Our deep space monitors picked up the first signs 3 months ago. How long do we have? 2 to 3 centuries before it reaches inhabited space. Enough time to prepare if the galaxy stands together. Not enough time if we remain divided. Chen Wei understood now why his final words to Admiral Kessitar had felt so important. The alien empires had to learn the truth, but they also had to choose. Join humanity in preparing for the real threat or face it alone and die. The ships that are waking up, he asked. How many? Dr. Vasquez smiled for the first time since he had arrived. Enough, she said simply. Outside, across the solar system, ancient guardians continued their awakening. Humanity's true fleet was stirring after millennia of patient waiting. Soon the galaxy would learn what humans had really been doing for the past 12,000 years. And hopefully, it would not be too late to save everyone. The combined alien fleet arrived at Tau Cygni exactly on schedule. 50,000 ships spread across space in perfect formation, representing the greatest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Admiral Kessitar commanded from his flagship, the crystalline dreadnought Eternal Light. The massive vessel sparkled like a jewel against the darkness of space. Sensors show no human activity in the system, reported his tactical officer. Their colonial outposts appear to have been abandoned. Queen Vexith's voice came through the communication system from her bioship Living Storm. Thousands of smaller creatures made up her vessel, working together like cells in a massive organism. The swarm detects no defensive positions. Perhaps the humans chose wisdom and fled. Elder Morden spoke from the Bridge of Ancient Purpose, a vessel that had served the Veiltar hegemony for 8,000 years. Unlikely. Human behavior patterns suggest they would make some gesture of defiance even if hopeless. Kessitar studied his displays. Something felt wrong, but he could not identify what. The system seemed empty, but his instincts warned him otherwise. All fleet commanders maintain defensive formations, he ordered. Begin systematic search of the system. As the alien fleets moved deeper into Tau Cygni, space around them began to change. What had appeared to be empty vacuum started showing energy readings that made no sense. Gravitational fields appeared where no mass should exist. Light bent in impossible ways around patches of apparently empty space. Admiral, his science officer called out, voice tight with confusion. I am detecting massive structures throughout the system, but they are not showing up on visual scanners. Cloaking technology? Kessitar asked. No, sir. This is something else. The objects are there, but they are also not there. As if they exist in space that is folded somehow. Similar reports flooded in from ships across the fleet. Sensors detected the impossible while eyes saw nothing. The alien commanders had never encountered anything like it. Then the structures began to appear. It started as a shimmer in space near the system's 4th planet. The shimmer grew larger, revealing the outline of something massive. As it became, solid gasps echoed across communication channels throughout the fleet. A ship was materializing. But calling it a ship was like calling a mountain a rock. The vessel stretched over 100 kilometers from front to back. Its hull was black metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange symbols covered its surface, symbols that hurt to look at and seemed to move when observed directly. By the eternal crystal, Kessitar whispered. More ships were appearing throughout the system. Dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. Each one was larger than anything in the alien fleets. Some were sleek like blades. Others looked like cities built for war. A few defied description entirely, their shapes following rules of geometry that should not work in normal space. The largest vessel appeared directly in front of the alien fleet. It was over 200 kilometers long and shaped like a massive spear. Its hull showed the work of countless builders across thousands of years. Some sections were clearly ancient, while others looked recently completed. The entire ship pulsed with energy that made space itself vibrate. "This is impossible," Queen Vexith said, her swarm voice filled with something the Korthak had not experienced in millennia. Fear. "These ships, they are older than our records, older than our civilizations." A communication signal reached every ship in the alien fleet simultaneously. The signal came from the massive spear-shaped vessel. When the transmission activated, it showed a human woman standing on a bridge that looked more like a cathedral than a command center. Commander Sarah Chen wore a uniform that bore symbols matching those on the ship's hull. Behind her, the bridge stretched beyond sight, filled with control stations that operated themselves and displays showing star maps that covered entire galactic arms. "This is Commander Sarah Chen of the Terran vessel Endurance," she said calmly. "You have entered Sol's defensive perimeter. Withdraw immediately." The silence that followed was absolute. 50,000 alien ships, the pride of 3 great empires, faced by a human fleet that should not exist. Admiral Kessitar was the first to recover. "Commander Chen, I am Admiral Kessitar of the Zephyrian Empire. Your ships, where did they come from?" "They have always been here, Admiral. You simply were not permitted to see them." Elder Morden's ancient voice carried across the communication channel. "Impossible. The Veiltar have monitored this system for centuries. We would have detected construction on this scale." Sarah Chen smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "Elder Morden, your people are 10,000 years old. Impressive. The Endurance began construction 12,000 years ago, during Earth's last ice age. Would you like to compare the age of our civilizations?" "You lie," Queen Vexith said, but her swarm voice wavered with uncertainty. "Humans are a young species. Your technology is primitive." "The humans you know are young," Chen agreed. "The technology you have seen is primitive, but you have never seen the real Earth or the real human fleet." She gestured to someone off-screen. The displays in every alien ship suddenly showed new sensor readings. The data made no sense. The human ships were powered by what appeared to be miniaturized stars. Their hulls were made from crystallized space-time. Their weapons seemed to manipulate fundamental forces of physics. "Your Zephyrian energy crystals are impressive, Admiral Kessitar," Chen continued, "but they are crude compared to what powers our ships. Queen Vexith, your swarm intelligence spans millions of minds. Our ship networks span 12,000 years of continuous growth. Elder Morden, your hegemony has endured for 10 millennia. Earth has been preparing for this moment for longer than your civilization has existed." Admiral Kessitar's tactical displays showed energy readings that climbed beyond his instrument's ability to measure. A single human ship was producing more power than his entire fleet combined. "What do you want?" he asked. "To protect this galaxy," Chen replied, "from threats you cannot imagine. Threats that are coming whether we fight among ourselves or not." "And if we refuse to withdraw?" Sarah Chen was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded to someone off-screen. Space around the alien fleet suddenly filled with light. The human ships had activated weapons that turned nearby asteroids into streams of pure energy. Empty space itself seemed to catch fire. The demonstration lasted exactly 10 seconds, but in that time, the alien commanders saw technology that redefined their understanding of what was possible. "That was a 1% power demonstration," Chen said calmly. "We could have reduced your entire fleet to atoms without straining our defensive grid." The communication channels filled with panicked voices from ships throughout the alien fleet. Commanders demanded explanations that no one could provide. Sensors showed readings that violated known physics. The greatest military force in galactic history had been revealed as children playing with toys. "You have a choice," Chen continued. "Withdraw now and we will discuss the future. Attack us and discover why humanity has remained hidden for 12,000 years." Admiral Kessitar looked at his displays showing 50,000 ships under his command. Then he looked at the human vessels that surrounded them, ships that dwarfed his dreadnoughts and carried weapons that could rewrite the laws of physics. All ships, he said slowly. Stand down weapons. Maintain position but do not advance. A wise choice, Admiral, Chen said. Now, shall we discuss why you are really here? And why humanity is finally revealing what we have been hiding? Queen O. Vexith's swarm mind struggled to process what it was seeing. This changes everything. Yes, Sarah Chen agreed. It does. The question is whether it changes things in time. In time for what? Chen's expression grew serious. Behind her, the bridge displays showed something that made the alien commander's blood run cold. Deep space sensors were tracking something at the galaxy's edge, something vast and dark that consumed light itself. In time to save everyone, Chen said quietly, including you. The three alien commanders found themselves aboard the Endurance, standing in a conference room that defied understanding. The walls showed live images of space from impossible angles, as if the room existed in multiple places at once. Ancient symbols covered every surface, glowing softly with their own light. Sarah Chen sat at a table made from what appeared to be crystallized time itself. The surface showed swirling patterns that moved like slow liquid while remaining perfectly solid. Across from her, Admiral Kessitar, Queen Vexith, and Elder Morden struggled to process what they were experiencing. Your ship, Elder Morden said slowly. It is alive. In a sense, Chen agreed. The Endurance has been growing for 12,000 years. It learns, adapts, remembers. Every human who has served aboard has left a part of themselves in its memory core. Queen Vexith's swarm body rippled nervously. This technology should not be possible. No species in our records has achieved anything like this. Because no species in your records received help from the architects, Chen replied. She gestured, and the room around them changed. The walls became transparent, showing not space but time itself. Images flowed past them, showing Earth's history in fast motion. They saw primitive humans discovering agriculture, building the first cities, reaching for the stars. 12,000 years ago, humanity was barely civilized, Chen began. We had just learned to farm. Most of our species still lived in small tribes. We were not special. We were not chosen for our intelligence or our strength. The images slowed, focusing on a night sky above ancient Earth. Something was happening to the stars. Patterns of light that should not exist were writing messages across the heavens. That is when the architects found us. Or perhaps it is more accurate to say that is when they allowed us to find them. The scene changed, showing early humans gathering around strange objects that had appeared overnight. The objects were clearly not of Earth, but they were not threatening. They hummed with gentle energy and projected images that taught basic concepts. The architects were a species that had transcended physical existence millions of years ago, Chen continued. They had become pure consciousness, able to travel between galaxies in an instant. But they had also learned something terrible. The images shifted to show other galaxies, beautiful spiral arms filled with billions of stars. Then those same galaxies appeared again, but now they were dark and empty. Every star had been extinguished. Every world was cold and dead. The silence, Admiral Kessitar said, recognizing what he was seeing. Yes. The silence, a force that consumes entire galaxies, leaving nothing behind but empty space. The architects had fought it before in their home galaxy. They lost. Elder Morden leaned forward, his ancient eyes fixed on the images. How is such a thing possible? We still do not fully understand, Chen admitted. The silence is not made of matter or energy as we know them. It exists in the spaces between reality, feeding on the connections that hold the universe together. When it passes through a galaxy, it does not destroy the stars so much as it makes them forget how to shine. The images showed the architects' desperate flight from their dying galaxy, millions of years of searching for somewhere to make a stand, finally reaching this galaxy and finding it full of young species that might, with help, be able to do what the architects could not. They chose us, Queen Vexith said. They chose humanity specifically, Chen corrected, after observing hundreds of species across the galaxy. Not because we were superior, but because of one unique trait, which was, we think in generations. Most species plan for decades, perhaps centuries. Humans plan for thousands of years. We make sacrifices that our great-great-grandchildren will benefit from. We begin projects knowing we will never see them completed. The images showed the early partnership between humanity and the architects. Humans learning technologies that were millions of years advanced, but more importantly, learning the patience to use those technologies properly. The shipyards, Admiral Kestar realized, were built across centuries, by generations of humans who knew they would never see the ships completed, Chen confirmed. Each generation added to the work. Children grew up knowing their purpose was to continue building for a war that might not come for thousands of years. The scene shifted to show ancient Egypt, but instead of the primitive civilization the galaxy knew about, it showed massive construction projects hidden beneath the pyramids. Similar scenes played out around Earth, generation after generation of humans secretly building humanity's true fleet. The colonies you know about, Chen continued, the primitive humans who joined the galactic community 200 years ago, they are real, but they represent only our outer settlements. Earth itself became something else entirely. The images showed Earth as it truly was. The entire planet had been transformed into a fortress and factory. Continents had been hollowed out to create shipyards. The oceans contained construction facilities that stretched to the ocean floor. Even the planet's core had been modified to power the massive undertaking. Every human was part of the project, Chen explained. Farmers grew food for shipyard workers. Artists designed hull patterns that would confuse enemy sensors. Children played games that were actually training programs for ship operations. Our entire civilization was restructured around a single goal. But why the secrecy? Elder Morden asked. Why not reveal yourself sooner? Because the architects gave us one crucial piece of information, Chen replied. The silence feeds on conflict. It grows stronger when civilizations fight each other. A divided galaxy would fall quickly. Only a united galaxy has any chance of survival. The room showed them images of the silence approaching their galaxy. Even at the edge of sensor range, it was clearly visible as a dark wound in space itself. Stars were already beginning to dim along its path. How long? Queen Vexith asked. 2 to 3 centuries before it reaches inhabited space, Chen answered. Enough time to prepare if every species works together. Not enough time if we remain divided by old rivalries and territorial disputes. Admiral Kestar was studying the images of human ships under construction. The technology you possess? It could have conquered the galaxy easily. Why did you not? Because conquerors create enemies, Chen replied. We needed allies, not subjects. The architects were very clear about this. Humanity's role was not to rule, but to protect, to serve as guardians for every species in the galaxy. Even us? Queen Vexith asked. Even after we threatened to destroy you? Especially you, Chen said with a slight smile. The 3 empires represent the galaxy's greatest military powers. Without your help, the coming war cannot be won. Elder Morden was quiet for a long moment, processing everything he had learned. Finally, he spoke. The burden you have carried, 12,000 years of preparation for a war your ancestors would never see. How did your species maintain such purpose across so many generations? Because the architects showed us what failure looks like, Chen replied. The room around them filled with images of dead galaxies. Billions of worlds where entire civilizations had been erased from existence. They showed us what happens when the silence wins. Every life that ever existed simply gone. The images shifted to show Earth's children playing in gardens that existed between massive shipyards. Humans laughing and loving and living normal lives while secretly building the galaxy's last hope. So we chose to carry the burden, Chen continued, generation after generation. We chose to sacrifice our own advancement to protect species that did not even know we existed. We chose to be guardians, and now? Admiral Kestar asked. Now the time for hiding is over, Chen said. The silence has been detected. The galaxy's empires are strong enough to potentially survive if they work together, and humanity has finally built enough ships to make a difference. The room returned to normal, showing just the conference table and the 4 figures around it, but the weight of what they had learned hung heavy in the air. You are asking us to trust you, Queen Vexith said slowly. I am asking you to trust the evidence, Chen corrected. Your sensors have seen our technology. Your intelligence has confirmed our capabilities. The choice is simple. Unite with us to face the silence or face it alone and die. Elder Morden looked at his fellow commanders. In their eyes, he saw the same realization that was growing in his own mind. Everything they thought they knew about the galaxy had been wrong. Humanity was not a young species playing with primitive toys. They were ancient guardians who had been preparing for this moment longer than most civilizations had existed. "What do you need from us?" he asked quietly. Sarah Chen smiled, and for the first time since they had met her, it was a genuinely happy expression. "Everything," she said simply. "Your ships, your technology, your people. In return, humanity offers its protection and 12,000 years of accumulated knowledge. And if we refuse," Chen's smile faded, "then we will protect you anyway. The architects did not make our mission conditional on your cooperation. Every life in this galaxy is our responsibility, whether they accept our help or not." The three alien commanders looked at each other, realizing they faced a choice that would define the future of their civilizations: trust the hidden guardians or face the coming darkness alone. Admiral Kessitar stood at the observation deck of the Endurance looking out at his fleet. The 50,000 ships that had seemed so impressive hours ago now looked like toys floating next to humanity's true vessels. His crystalline form reflected the strange light that came from the human ship's hull, creating patterns that hurt to contemplate. Behind him, Queen Vexith and Elder Mordun waited in silence. The three commanders had been given 1 hour to make their decision, 1 hour to choose the future of their civilizations. "My people will not believe this," Kessitar said quietly. "They will when they see the proof," Sarah Chen replied, joining them at the observation window. "We are prepared to share our sensor data, our historical records, everything." "The technology alone," Queen Vexith said, her swarm voice carrying wonder and fear in equal measure. "Your weapons, your ships, your understanding of physics. It makes our greatest achievements look primitive." Chen nodded. "The architects left us more than just construction blueprints. They left us millions of years of scientific knowledge. We have barely begun to understand it all." Elder Mordun turned from the window. "Show us." "Show you what?" "Your true power. Not a demonstration. The real thing." Chen was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke to the air around them. "Endurance? Prepare firing solution on asteroid cluster 77 Alpha." The ship's voice responded, sounding like multiple people speaking in perfect harmony. "Solution prepared, Commander. Warning, target destruction will be visible to all ships in the system. Proceed." Through the observation window, they watched space itself change. Reality seemed to fold around the Endurance's main weapon as it charged. Then a beam of pure white light reached out across the system, touching an asteroid field that contained millions of rocks, some as large as moons. The asteroids did not explode. They simply stopped existing. Where moments before there had been a complex field of tumbling rocks, now there was empty space that glowed with residual energy. The weapon had not destroyed the asteroid so much as convinced the universe they had never been there. "Localized reality manipulation," Chen explained calmly. "One of the simpler technologies the architects left us. We can make things exist, or make them not exist, within limited areas." The alien commanders stared at the empty space where the asteroid field had been. Admiral Kessistar's sensors showed no debris, no energy signature from an explosion. The asteroids had simply been erased from reality. "How many ships in your fleet can do this?" he asked. "All of them," Chen replied, "though the larger vessels have much more sophisticated capabilities." She gestured, and another ship became visible in the distance. This one was even larger than the Endurance, shaped like a massive ring with structures that defied geometry growing from its surface. "The infinite recursion," Chen said. "It can create temporary pocket dimensions, fold space to bring distant objects close, or stretch time to give us more hours in a day. The ship exists in multiple realities simultaneously." Queen Vexith's swarm mind struggled to process what it was hearing. "You could have conquered the galaxy with ease. You could have ruled everything." "Ruled what?" Chen asked. "Empty worlds? Dead civilizations?" The architects tried ruling their galaxy once. It made them powerful, but it also made them alone. When the silence came, there was no one left to stand with them. Elder Mordun nodded slowly. "Unity, not dominion." "Exactly. We need allies, not subjects. Partners, not servants." Admiral Kestar turned from the window. "The Zephyrian Empire accepts your alliance." The words came out before he had consciously decided to say them, but looking at the human fleet, At the technology that could reshape reality itself, he knew there was only one logical choice. The swarm agrees, Queen Vexith added. Our minds are unified in this decision. Elder Mordun was quiet longer than the others. Finally he spoke. The Veiltar hegemony has endured for 10,000 years by being cautious, by avoiding risks that could destroy us. But what you have shown us, the silence would destroy us regardless. We accept your alliance. Sarah Chen smiled. Then let me show you what we can accomplish together. The observation deck around them shifted, becoming a strategic planning center. Holographic displays showed the entire galaxy, with the approaching silence visible as a dark stain at the edge. But now the display also showed humanity's true fleet strength and the combined military might of all four civilizations. Our preliminary battle plans, Chen explained. The silence is vast, but it is not infinite. It can be fought if we are prepared. The display zoomed in to show specific regions where defensive lines could be established. Human shipyards working with alien industrial capabilities. Technology exchanges that would strengthen all parties. Joint training programs for crews who would fight together. Your energy manipulation technology, Chen said to Admiral Kessitar, combined with our reality-shaping tools, could create weapons that damage the silence directly. The swarm's distributed intelligence, she continued, addressing Queen Vexith, linked with our ship networks could coordinate fleets across entire galactic arms. And the hegemony's temporal research, she said to Elder Morden, could help us understand how the silence moves through time as well as space. The alien commanders studied the plans. What they saw was not conquest, but collaboration. Humanity, offering its most advanced secrets in exchange for partnership against a common threat. There is something else, Chen said. The architects left us one final gift, a weapon that could potentially destroy the silence entirely, but it requires the combined knowledge and resources of multiple civilizations to build. A new display appeared, showing schematics for something that looked more like a piece of art than a weapon. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time, a device that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The Galaxy Forge, Chen explained. It would take the unified strength of every major civilization to construct, and if it works, it would not just drive off the silence. It would create a barrier that protects this galaxy permanently. And if it fails? Elder Morden asked. Then we fight the traditional way, and hope we can bleed the silence enough to make it retreat to easier targets. Admiral Kessitar studied the weapon schematics. How long to build this galaxy forge? 200 years, if every civilization contributes fully. 150 years if we can convince the smaller species to join the alliance. The silence arrives in 2 to 3 centuries, Queen Vexith noted. Which gives us a margin for error, Chen agreed. But not a large one. The strategic display expanded to show not just military plans, but civilian preparations, evacuation routes for non-combatant species, fallback positions if the first defensive lines failed, protocols for preserving galactic civilization even if the worst happened. You have planned for everything, Elder Morden observed. We have tried to, Chen replied, but plans only work if everyone follows them willingly. We cannot force cooperation. You could, Admiral Kessitar pointed out. Your technology is powerful enough. And then we would be no better than the silence, Chen said firmly. The architects were very clear about this. The only way to truly defeat the silence is to prove that cooperation is stronger than consumption, that unity is stronger than destruction. A soft chime sounded through the chamber. Chen listened to a voice that only she could hear, then nodded. My fleet commanders are requesting permission to begin joint exercises with your ships, she said. If you are willing. The alien commanders looked at each other. They were being offered partnership with beings who could reshape reality, who had planned for 12,000 years, who possessed weapons that could erase asteroids from existence. But more than that, they were being offered a chance to save their entire galaxy. Admiral Kestar, Chen said formally, will the Zephyrian Empire stand with humanity against the silence? We will, he replied. Queen Vexith, will the Korthak swarm join our alliance? The swarm stands ready, she answered. Elder Morden, will the Veiltar hegemony help us forge the galaxy's defense? The ancient being straightened his shoulders. The hegemony has never backed down from a challenge. We will not start now. Sarah Chen nodded and spoke to the air around them. Endurance, transmit alliance codes to all allied vessels. Begin integration protocols. Throughout the system, 50,000 alien ships received new tactical data. Their sensors suddenly showed the true scope of humanity's hidden fleet. Thousands of vessels emerging from concealment, shipyards revealing themselves, weapons platforms that had been disguised as asteroids powering up. But more than that, they received invitations. Requests for technical exchange, offers of shared training, proposals for joint research projects. Humanity was not just revealing its military might, but opening its entire civilization to new allies. The work begins now, Chen said. We have much to do and little time to do it. Admiral Kessistar looked out at the combined fleets, alien and human ships beginning to work together for the first time. Why did you reveal yourselves now? You could have waited until the silence was closer. Chen's expression grew serious. Because our deep space monitors detected something else. The silence is not just approaching randomly. It is following the trail of our transmissions, our energy signatures. It knows we are here. How long? Elder Morden asked.